Today's daf is Masechet Daf Zayin. So we are at the bottom of Vav Beis, approximately 2.5 lines from the bottom, where it says Amar Mar. So Zak the Gemara is going to go back to discuss this that we said Machlekes Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Shia and the Brisa. The Gemara before bought Machlekes Rabbi Yonasan and Rabbi Shia, that Rabbi Shia says Nazir is 30 days, and you learn it out from Kadesh Gal Para. It has to be 30 days to be Gal Para. And Rabbi Yonasan said that you learn out from Ad Melois Hayomim. So Zak the Gemara, Amar Mar. Amar Mar. Elu hein yom shetzrichen limlois have you omer shloishim. Rabbi Yonasan says that what are the days that the pasuk says I'm lois hayamim? What is that referring to? It must go going on days, a month that you have to fill, which is shloishim. In fact, the Gemara of the Shabbos. So maybe Stam Naziris is just until Shabbos, and it's called Malois, and the pasuk is calling it Malois since it's a full week. You filled up the week. How do you know it's a full month? So the Gemara, Shabbos mi'ika chasirusa, does it pass to have that you're missing any? And there's nothing missing. You have to fill it up. Every week is the same. Every week is 7. Actually, in months, you have some months that are chaser and some that are mali. So it's shayach losh and malois. What I'm saying doesn't really make sense. It's not mistaber that malois to go on a week. Frek the Gemara ve'ema shana, maybe say that it means a year, because you have some years that have more days than other years. So Taisus and the Rosh apparently say that there are years that Cheshvan and years that Cheshvan is Chaser and Kislev is Male, so it's 354, and when they're both Chaser, it's 353, and when they're both Male, it's 355. Okay, so that's Gemara's Kasha. So maybe maybe means a year. Zak Gemara, do you count a year according to the amount of days it has? How do you know that you do not you're not mashlim the year of the Levana to the year of the sun with added days? Shenamar, because it says in the parasha of Kiddush HaChodesh, l'chotshei hashana, we darshim chadashim mechafshim hashanin v'lo yom shanim. So months complete a year, but days do not complete a year. So you see that from that you don't look at the days. Zak the Heilige Mishnah weiter. By the way, Taisus explains that the Shnas HaChama, the sun year, is 365 days, whereas the year of the Levana is either 353, like we just saw, or 355. So Kumtais, it's shorter than the Shnas HaChama, approximately 10 to 12 days. So in order to even them up, we don't add every year 10 or 12 days. Rather, we wait to the third year, and then we make it every year. Adding a month. So that's the pshat what the Gemara means. Okay, Zok the Heilige Mishnah weiter. Omar Hareini Nazir, Achas Gadoila, Hareini Nazir, Achas Katana. If somebody says, I'm making one Nazir's Gadoila, a big one, or he says, Hareini Nazir, Achas Katana, small Nazir's, Afilu Mikam Vat Sefa Olam, if he says Hareini Nazir from here till the end of the world, in all these cases, Nazir Shloshim Yoyim. The halacha is, it's all one Nazir, so you say Stam Nazir Shloshim Yoyim. Zak the Gemara, Amai, how come if somebody says I'm coming Nazir Mikanat Sefa Olam, why is it only 30 days? When Mikanat Sefa Olam Kamar, he said that you want to be a Nazir from here till the end of the world. Maybe it's mashma that he wants to be a Nazir Olam, that he wants to be a Nazir forever. Zak the Gemara, Hachi Kamar, this is how you explain his words. Aricha li chada milsa. He's saying that this that I was makabel on myself on Nazirus of 30 days it's kimikamat seif oilam. It's hard on me. It's hard for me to commit to Naziris. It's as hard as from here to the end of the world. In fact, the Gemara Tanah, we learned in the Mishnah later on, Ches Amid Aleph, the next daf, it says, Harini Nazir Mekanam Nekoim Ploini. If somebody says, I'm a Nazir from here until Ploini, till that place, you estimate how long it takes to get there. Mikan, I'm complaining from here where he is now until that place. So Pachas V'Shleishim Yayim, Nazir Shleishim Yayim. If it's less than 30 days, you say he's Nazir for 30 days. V'im Lav, if the travel time is not less than 30 days, and you say Nazir Kamin Yom, and it becomes a Nazir according to those amount of days that it takes to travel there. In fact, the Gemara Ve'imah HaChanami say over here also that its kavanah is not for Naziris more than 30 days. Rather, Arichli Hamilsa, he means to say Kimikana Makamplain. And he's trying to say that Naziris takes a toll on him like Mikana Makamplain. Maybe that's what he means to say, just like we explained in the Mishnah. So like the Gemara, Marava Shehichsik Badarech. It's talking about that he went out to travel on that route, and in order to save himself from the dangers that there are on those travels, he's Mikabal himself Naziris for as long as it takes to travel that route. Zok the Gemara weiter. Fragt the Gemara v'lehevi kol parsa. Parsa, the Gemara asks another kasha. So he should be a Nazir. He should be a Nazir, and he should count it like against each parsa, and say that when he says I'm gonna mikamat shleishim yom in the Mishnah, why do you say it means stam nazir shleishim yom, and it means it's hard on him, it's taking a toll on him, like going from here to the end of the world. Maybe start counting the parsas it is from here to the end of the world, which is 500 parsa. I'm sorry, not 500 parsa. So it means it's 500 years to get from here to the end of the world. So maybe he should have to cut every 30 days. Zok the Gemara, Amar of Papa answers, Ba'asar Deloy Money Parts. It's talking about a place that they don't count in measurements of parsais. So therefore, it's not mistaver that's what he meant, because it's not how people speak about it in the place where this guy made his Naziris. Zok the Gemara weiter. Fragt the Gemara v'lehevni kol avna va'avna. He should be a Nazir. Maybe not the amount of years that it takes to get from here to the end of the world, but maybe the amount of days that it takes to get to the end of the world. So fine, you don't want to count parsais because they don't count parsais in a place where it is fine, but let it work in the amount of days that it takes to get from here to the end of the world. Maybe that's what he meant. So the Gemara Miloy Tanan already knows that kafar arz chesar roishi, or like the amount of hairs in my head, choil yam, the sand in the ocean, harizin nazir olam. Allah is in that case that he's in nazir olam. Why? Because you say that's a lot, right? He just meant like a ton of amount, and you say that's what he meant to be calling themselves Naziris, like the amount of his hair or the pieces of sand in the ocean. Allah is that he cuts his hair once every 30 days. So Zok the Gemara, just like you say over there, say over here also when he says Mekamat Seifah, that's what it means. And for the Gemara, Kol Milsades Bekitsusa like Katani. Anybody that's told Naziris and something that there's a set amount, like Katani. The Tana of the Mishnah is not coming to say that you count as Naziris. So Mekamat Seifah Olam is a Davar Sheish L'Kitzvah, because that is a set amount. We know that's 500 years. Masha Ein King Choila Yom and Saroish. Apparently, that's not a set amount, which is interesting. Saroish, I would think maybe it's a lot. There's a lot of hairs on the head, but I guess there could be hundreds of thousands of hairs. So I wonder how many hairs on the head. But apparently, it's not a set amount. So it's really not the point that it's a crazy number. It's just that l'chera, it's not a set amount. Okay, Zakti Gemara, V'Tanya. Zakti Gemara, the Gemara brings a raya. V'Tanya, we learned in a brayso. Harei Nazir kol yemei chaya. If the guy says, "I'm a Nazir kol yemei chaya," or he says, "Harei Nazir olam." Nazir olam means he doesn't give any set amount. Halacha is Harei zeh Nazir olam, like Avisham, and it's mutter to him to cut off his hair once every 12 months. However, if he's Mekabel Naziris and it was a set amount, again, so if he's not, doesn't say his man cut, if he says Hareini Nazir Kol Mechai or Nazir Olam, the halacha is he's a Nazir Olam. But if he's Mekabel on himself at time, Afilu Me'eshani, even if it's 100 years or if it's 1,000 years, then the halacha is Ein Zen Nazir Olam, is not a Nazir Olam like Avshanim, rather Ella Nazir Le Olam. So Zakti Gemara, in this case, he's not a Nazir Olam, rather he's Nazir Le Olam for his whole life. So you see there's a difference between if it's a Kotzev or it's not Kotzev. Zakti Gemara, Rabba says, Shani Sa'arais Hilm of Dali Zumzu. It's different when he says he wants a Nazir like the hair on his head because his hair is Mavdali Zumzu. So therefore we say that his Mekabel's Nazirisin separate Nazirisin. And therefore he could cut his hair every 30 days. Because you say he meant to be Mekabel Naziris, so it wasn't straight Naziris. Masha Ein Kain. If he says Mekamat Seifa Olam, then his kavana is it's not mistaber to say that his kavana is for separate Naziris, rather it's one long Naziris. So even if someone's Mekabel himself, so for Gemara, you see l'cher from the pasuk you see every day is a thing for itself. So how can you tell me if a guy says Mekabel Tzeifa Ilam, then it's not mistaber to split up the days because it's not that every day is a separate thing. L'cher it's mashma from the pasuk of Erev Vayker, maybe that every day is a separate thing. So Gemara Hasam Lavda Paskim Yadada. It's not coming to say that each day is separated from the next day. Or rather, what does it mean to say? It's coming to say that the day and the night is considered one thing. That's what it's coming to say. However, the days themselves are not considered separate. Every day is not considered. You don't say that it's a separate thing each day. So therefore, someone said me, you say that all the days are together and it's one long Naziris. Zakti Gemara Rava says, why do you have to make it so shver? If somebody said Mekamat Seifa Olam, so Rava is saying I have a much easier way out. Rava is saying He's saying in the Reisha it says Hareini Nazir Achas. He's saying this that it says Achas on the Reisha is also going in the Seifa. When he's saying in the Seifa also Hareini Nazir Achas Mekamat Seifa Olam, and since he said to specify the word Achas, he means to say Al Karachot said he's saying Mekamat Seifa Olam, he means that it's hard on him as a Naziris. He's not coming to allude to the amount of days that he's going to be a Nazir. Zakta Mishnah Vayter Hareini Nazir v'yoyim echad. Or if somebody says Hareini Nazir and one day, or Hareini Nazir Visha Achas. Says Zakti Mishnah, Hareini Nazir Achas Omechza, it says 1.5, or Hareini Nazir Shtayim, 2 Naziris of 30 days each. So that's halacha. In all these cases, he has a din. He has 2 Naziris and 2 times 30. Why? Because when he says Hareini Nazir is 1 Naziris, and the fact that he says Yoim Echad, we say it's like he's Mekabel another Naziris. And it's like he said, Hareini Nazir, Vin Nazir Im Echad. So each time it says Naziris, it's a whole another Naziris. And the same thing, Hareini Nazir Achas Umechza. Okay, so Zakti Gemara, Mr. Kolhani. Why does the Mishnah Tana have to specify all these cases that it's considered as two Nazirs, that you say is Chayiv and two Nazirs? It could have said one of the cases, and we know to all the Lashonos. Zakti Gemara Tzrichi, the Tana Arini Nazir V'Yom Echad. If you just tell me the first case of Arini Nazir V'Yom Echad, then I might have thought that Hacha Hudan Rina and Dafka over here we say that it's two Kabbalah Masal, he's Chayiv and two Naziris, because a Naziris L'Yom Echad, because a Naziris is not Chal for one day, Amtalachi Kamani Tartain. So therefore he counts two Naziris. Al Harini Nazir V'Shah Achas. But in the case of Harini Nazir V'Shah Achas, so I would have said that Limne Shleishim Echad Yom, just count 31 days. Kamash Malan, that even in this case, no, he has to complete two Naziris. The Itana, and if you would have just said Harini Nazir V'Shah Achas, and I would have said Dafka, in this case it's Chal two Naziris, Mishon Nachas L'Dafka, because he wasn't medactic enough in his words, because he said something that's not possible, because you can't have a Naziris for hours for sure. So since we have to fix his words, we'll say he has to Mikabel another full Naziris. Aval Achas Umechza, but what if he says I'm a Nazir 1.5? So the Nachas L'Dafka, so he was more medactic in his words, because technically he can Mikabel another 15 days in Naziris. So Ema Loilim Netarti, maybe you should not technically be Michayim two full Naziris, Shleshim Yoim, rather 45 days, which is 1.5. Kamash Malon, Tanas Kam Tam Yechidish, that Kulu Nazir Shtaim. All these cases in the Mishnah, the halacha is that it's Chayiv in two Naziris, because if somebody's Makabel mixes Naziris, the halacha is it's like he's Makabel a full Naziris. Zakta Hilig Mishnah Weiter. The Gemara, this Mishnah is bring a case where it's not Chal on him an additional Naziris. So Hareini Naziris Shleishim Yoim V'Shah Achas. If somebody says I'm going to be a Nazir 30 days and 1 hour. So since he did not say the word Shah Achas next to Nazir, so we don't say it's like him saying Hareini Nazir v'Nazir Shah Achas like the last Mishnah. Rather we say he's Nischave and his intention is to add on another hour on the Naziris that he was ready Mikabel, and the halacha is Nazir Shleishim Ve'echad Yayim, that he becomes a Nazir for 30 days, 31 days. She'ein Nazir L'Shashayis. Why 31 days of all Mikabel hours? Why? Because it's not possible to Mikabel Naziris for hours. It doesn't work on hours. You can Mikabel it on a day, so therefore he takes one extra day. We say that's what he meant when he said Shayis. Zok the Gemara, Amar Rav says, Loi Shanu, that he's Noyig Naziris 31 days. Elo da Omar, only he says Shleishim ve'echad yoyim. Only if it says Hareini Nazir Shleishim ve'echad yoyim. Aval Omar Shleishim yoyim v'yoyim echad. But if it says 30 days and 1 day, so since he added an extra word yoyim, we say Nazir Shtayim. The halacha is he has to Mikabel another full Naziris Shleishim yoyim. Zakti Gemara, Rav Savalar Karbikiva. Rav holds like Karbikiva Darsh Lashon Yisera, the Darshans, that when somebody uses the extra Lashon, you say that he's Mischaven to an additional thing, even though he doesn't specify it clearly, the Tanan, because we learned in Masechta Abasot Asamach Dal, Amadal, it says over there, HaMoicher, the Mishnah says, HaMoicher is Habayis, somebody sells a house, Loyas habar v'loyas dus. He did not sell to the buyer, not the pit and not the dus. That's in the house. So a bar and a dus they're really both pits. What's the difference? So the Rashbam B'Maser says that a bar is like a hole in the ground, but there's no doesn't have like the walls are not smeared with anything because it's strong enough to hold the water. Whereas a dus is really like it's smeared with cement. So Zakti Gemara, Rav holds like a Rekiva, the Darsan Lishon Yisera, because when you see from this Mishnah, Hamoiches Habayis, Loyes Habar, Loyes Hadus, it's not included. Aval Bishakasav, even though he wrote in the Shtar Mechira, Rumah, that he's selling him the debt and the height of the whole house. Kol Malkum, you say it's not included in the Mechira because it doesn't have a bar and a dus, doesn't have the same tashmish as a bias. So halacha is, even though the bar and the dus stays in the ownership of the seller, the halacha is tzarich likach loy derech. He has to take a pathway from the buyer in order to have access to that bar and dus, right? Because he's selling him the whole property. Because the halach is, we say that the meicher is selling to the lekech ba'ayin yafa, and he's not mishayev himself anything. Dir Rabbi Kiva, that's shit Rabbi Kiva. Chachamim say, ein tzarich likach leiderech. The meicher does not have to take him buy for himself back from the lekech a pathway to get to his bar and dus, because he's selling ba'ayin raw, and you say that he left over for himself a derech that he can get to his own bar and dus. So the Mishnah says, Rabbi Kiva agrees to the Chachamim when the Moicha tells the Lekeach that he's selling in the bias Chutz Me'elu. If he specifies it, it says Chutz Me'elu, the halacha is she'ein tzarich likach leiderech. He does not have to take from himself a pathway in order to go to his pits. Why? Because since he specified clearly and he said chutz me'elu, so we say Avada, the Moicha's intention was to leave himself over a pathway that he could get to his own bar and dus. So Zakta Gemara, Rav, that we just said, that holds that the whole Mishnah is talking about if he says shloishim, the echad yoim, that's when he says it's 31 days. If he says shloishim yoim and he says v'yoim echad again, then it has two naziris, because you say Avada's kavanah is to become another Naziris, and not just one day. So the Gemara is saying that Rav would hold over Rabbi Kiva. Just like Rabbi Kiva says when he say chutz me'elu, we say, when he meant to say those words, he meant to be Mishayim himself a derech. So that's what Shita's saying, similar to Shita's Rav. The Rav says when he adds on the word Yaim, he means another Naziris.